Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Outside the Echo Chamber, coming to you from inside the state capitol as we have reached the halfway point of the 2024 legislative session. And joining me today right off the top is Delegate Pat McGeehan from Hancock County to talk about one of his resolutions that he crafted, House Concurrent Resolution 64, that caused a bit of an uproar in the chambers over the last week with some debate back and forth. First of all, correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to give a layman's version of the bill. It essentially, in broad language, says that the federal government has done the country a disservice with the way that it's protecting the border, and that you, as a West Virginia congressional unit, would stand with Texas and their ability to defend themselves. I don't want to dive too much into the details. I'll let you do that, but just talk a little bit about the genesis of that resolution, why you felt it was necessary, and why you think it's causing such a discussion.
I mean, I was asked to write the resolution by some members of our caucus last weekend on a Sunday. So yeah, I wrote it in support of Texas. I do think it's an important statement that we show as an official body that we stand with Texas and her right of self-defense, because, I mean, you know, as the old saying goes, as Texas goes, so does the rest of the union, or something like that. But, I mean, to be serious, the crisis on the southern border is reached a point where we can just no longer sit back and ignore this. There's been over 6 million illegal migrants cross the southern border in the last 3 years alone. Millions of those are military-aged men, thousands of pounds of illicit drugs that wound up in our neighborhoods, killing our citizens. We have no idea, you know, where millions of these military-aged men are going in the country. And, you know, without a border, really, you don't have a cohesive country. It's just a basic obligation going back thousands of years that to have some sort of national cohesion and a national sort of sovereignty, you have to have borders.
Now, this is something that other states have done too, these types of resolutions. We saw recently in Ohio and in Kentucky. From a practical sense, one of the arguments was it's a resolution. It's by definition just a show. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have any enforcement.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, why are we sitting here talking about it?
Well, it is a talker.
Because all these Democrats are, whoa, man, it doesn't mean anything, but they're all over social media talking about it. And so I think in one sense, it definitely means something to them, and it means something to me.
Now, there's no debate that border security is important. The argument seems to be, and I'm going to try to approach this from a middle ground to talk about what Democrats say about the Republican stance, what Republicans say about the Democrat stance.
Sure.
There are a lot of people on the Democrat side that say what Republicans have done is almost conflated the issue to a point where there's blurred lines between immigration and illegal immigration, and that they're doing that purposely, that it's gaslighting and that it's dog whistle for we're trying to keep out immigrants. I want to give you a chance to state what the Republican GOP in West Virginia stance is on the difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration, and where you stand on that.
They want to change the conversation. They don't want to admit that millions and millions of illegal migrants have crossed into our country. That's an invasion. That's an invasion. They don't want to talk about that. So they want to move the goalpost and talk about, well, what's the difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration? You guys are just xenophobic, or they have all these terms. They want to say, oh, it's all about social justice, equality. Oh, and if you oppose this, you're racist, or you're, you know, they have all these different terms. But the bottom line is, it's our people, the average person in this country, that suffers when the basic goods that a government is supposed to provide, like a rule of law and, you know, being a citizen of the country where it actually means something, are just sort of now optional benefits to be taken or given whenever the federal government decrees it so, arbitrarily at their whims. That's tyranny, my friend.
Now,
That's tyranny.
You had a pretty impassioned speech on the floor when you were debating this bill. I know you have a philosophical background. Did you major in philosophy in college?
I'm finishing up a doctorate in philosophy.
Okay. I know when Sean Fluharty was speaking, he said, again, he brought up the point that this doesn't do anything. We might as well just send them a card and say, hey, Texas, we wish you well, good luck. Is your point that you're trying to spark this type of debate, you're trying to get this out in the forefront so that people can have some meaningful discussions and pass some meaningful legislation?
Yeah, I mean, that's what a legislative body does, is put forward debate and confront real issues. I did it through a resolution. I'm hopeful the Senate's going to take it up, and I've been talking with some members over there. And hopefully, I want to see concrete action. I think our National Guard, our West Virginia National Guard, will be better served going to Texas and defending our southern border than going over to the Middle East and worrying about the border between Jordan and Syria, or worrying about the border between Ukraine and Russia. That is ridiculous, my friend. Our National Guard is meant to defend this country, repel invasions in this country. It's not meant to be deployed at the whims of the federal government into combat zones and foreign wars. And so, given the choice, why don't we do that?
So you brought up something in a very practical way of what West Virginia can do, because a lot of people would say, well, this is a federal issue. This has nothing to do with West Virginia.
Well, when the federal government abdicates their obligations under the Constitution, what are we supposed to do? Just sit around and say, well, let the country become annihilated. The Supreme Court says, hey, you know what, Texas, you can't defend yourself. I'm sorry, but when a group of lawyers get together and they interpret constitutional law in bad faith, no, we cannot accept that, especially when it means, essentially, if we would let this continue, the extermination of our way of life. We can't accept that.
Now, the language in the resolution was broad, and I don't know if you did that purposefully. It didn't mention specific names. It didn't mention a timeline, and that opened the door for the other side to say, well, I'm glad that you're acknowledging the failures of past administrations as well. Did you want to clarify, were you specifically talking about the Biden administration and the current times, or were you talking about just a general sense of no matter who's in charge or who's running the show in D.C., we've got to get our act together?
I'm not too concerned about personalities, all right? I'm more concerned about the ideas and then taking concrete actions on those ideas. So Sean Fluharty or any other Democrat wants to talk about Biden versus Trump, I think that's just low IQ discussion. I want to talk about the ideas at hand. And right now we have a real crisis we have to deal with. It's a threat to the common good of this country, and it's a threat to the average Joe out there that we're supposed to stick up for.
You seem passionate about this. There are people that believe that over the last 6 years, what we've seen in West Virginia is a race to the right, with everyone trying to out-Trump everyone else. But you seem genuine in your thoughts about how important this is to you. What do you hope this leads to, or what do you think can it lead to, and what do you want to see get done?
Well, like I said, I think a first step would, and the governor is actually, to his credit, last year sent small detachments of some of our National Guard units down to Texas to help. But I think we could do some more of that, and maybe send some provisions and some material to help as well. But hopefully that would spark other states to step up and plug the gap where the federal government's just not throwing their basic duties.
So do you think that type of legislation will be brought up to do something where you would send our West Virginia National Guard down south?
I don't know if that actually
from the
needs
executive
legislation. That just needs to come from the executive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you talked to your colleagues since the floor debate about this?
Yeah, we've had discussions about
we asked Sean to come on. He said he had previous engagements. We asked Mike Pushkin to come on, and his take was that this is already getting enough press. From their point of view, they just believe that this is posturing. Do you understand that side of it?
Well, no, I don't. I don't, because I don't take them to be operating in good faith.
In what way?
Well, because I know some of these personalities. I've served them for over 10 years, and some of them are lawyers, others are not, but they're partisans, and whatever benefits their party, that's what they're going to go with. I know these guys. There's very few people who desire just the truth. And they don't fall into those ranks.
And in your opinion, the truth is that this is a crisis that it needs to be
met
head on right now.
Let's not just say, oh, this is just meaningless or whatever. Because, again, if it was meaningless, they wouldn't have so much concern about it.
All right, Pat McGeehan, thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
No problem. God bless.
And we'll be right back to change up gears a little bit on the middle of the session in 2024. We have Tom Takubo from the Senate to come on and talk about some health bills he's running that you want to hear about when Outside the Echo Chamber continues.
Dutch Miller Automotive, we've grown quite a bit over the last 60 years, but our core principles remain the same. We believe in treating our customers and our team members like friends and family, and we see it as our obligation to give back to all the communities we are so fortunate to do business in. In just West Virginia alone, we've grown from one location on the west end of Huntington to 10 rooftops employing more than 500 Mountaineers. Check out the inventory from all of our stores at DutchMillerAuto.com. Dutch Miller Automotive Group, West Virginia proud.
At CAMC, our focus has always been on building better healthcare for you. Our new Center for Learning and Research combines cutting-edge technology with hands-on experience for physicians, nurses, and other caregivers. Using specially designed simulation rooms and robotics with expert instruction, our learners expand their expertise. Because you deserve the most advanced care possible, now and in the years to come. Welcome to the future of medicine.
The HD Media Plus app is your ticket to see all the action on the hard court as it happens.
Saunders with the three.
Sam's bakes it in! Sam's from three, buries it off the glass! And the Red
Dozens of live games that you won't see anywhere else, featuring some of the best teams in the state. Watch the game live or later at your convenience, and the best part, it's free. Download the HD Media Plus app today to your smartphone or TV so you won't miss another shot. Welcome back inside the state capitol on the halfway point of the session in 2024. And joining me now is Senator Tom Takubo to talk about some health bills that he's running, and I know that they're very near and dear to you given your background as a pulmonary physician. If you would talk a little bit, I'll set you up and I'll just get kind of the layman terms about what these bills are, and then you can dive into the details.
Sure.
The first one is Senate Bill 378. I know they all have to do in some way with lung cancer, which is a huge problem, not just here in West Virginia, but nationwide. Senate Bill 378 would basically state that it would be illegal for anyone to smoke in a car with a child 16 or under in the car. I know you've tried unsuccessfully in the past to get this type of bill through. Just talk a little bit about that bill and why you think it's so important, and if you think you can get it through this time.
Yeah, the genesis of that bill came from a patient of mine that actually took care of both her and her father. Her father was a 3-pack-a-day smoker. She had asthma, and she talked about how horrific it was to be in a trapped, confined space. And anybody that has asthma or breathing problems, they know it takes very little sometimes to set them off, cause their airways go into spasm. You can't breathe. There's not much more scarier than that. And this patient lost about half of her lung function from growing up in that vehicle. And so she would talk about that if she complained about it, her dad was a 3-pack-a-day smoker, he would roll up the window to teach her a lesson, I guess. But she would crawl. She would tell me stories where she would crawl on the floorboard and put her face underneath the seat to just try to breathe. And so I promised her we would do that. And then more recently, I had a letter, a handwritten letter. You love those, from a little 70-year-old gentleman from Mingo County. And he picked up and saw that from previous years and just shared his life story about how he too grew up in a household where they smoked in the car, and that was the most horrific thing for him. He said it was a nightmare to ride in the vehicle. And then he went on to say how his mother, father, sister all died of lung complications and cancer. And so I just think it's an important thing. You know, people underestimate how toxic secondhand smoke can be, especially in a very confined space like a vehicle.
Now, I think one of the concerns with this type of law would be enforcement. When you get pulled over, for instance, how would that work? How would a police officer be able to prove that you were indeed smoking? I mean, you could easily put the cigarette out, throw it out the window.
Good.
How does that work?
This really is it's almost more of a public service announcement than anything, because I hope it would bring attention to parents to just maybe make the decision not to smoke in the first place. You can't be pulled over if they see you, if they're officers in the car next to you and they see it. They can't pull you over for that, but it's a secondary offense. They can give you an additional $25 ticket. But again, the hope would be is just to make patients and parents aware, not to do that with your kids in the car.
And that's a big deal because lung cancer is unique in that, St. Jude's Hospital is very near and dear to me. And when you go there down to Memphis, you see all these stats about childhood cancers that they've taken from about 5% survival rate to 95% over the last 50 years, just tremendous advances. But with lung cancer, it's been more of a crawl, would you say? I mean, Why has it been so hard to find those types of advances for that specific cancer?
I think it's just a fact that oftentimes it doesn't hit you till later. When we're young, we're invincible, and you don't think about it until the consequence later. I've yet to meet a smoker with advanced lung disease or lung cancer that says, "Boy, I'm glad I've smoked all these years."
Yeah, it's tough. So, and people say it's tough to legislate behavior.
Right.
So, in these types of bills, like you said, it's almost like a public service announcement. Is it just your goal to just kind of get the word out, to get people talking about it, so then they can have discussions with the people, like their physicians, or about their lifestyles and their choices?
Yeah, and I'm all about personal freedom. I think people, for the most part, should be able to do what they want, but we have to draw a line. And when my freedom crosses over into your freedom, that's where my freedom has to stop. And so for these parents, I know they're their children, but at the same time, this patient of mine, like I said, she lost half of her lung function. That's permanent. She'll never get that back.
Do you think that this will get through this time, or do you think that it's going to meet up some headwinds?
I think I have promised that it will get through the Senate. Now, what happens in the House, I can't predict.
The next one is Senate Bill 514, which would cover the cost of lung cancer screenings for specific people. Just talk a little bit about that bill and what it would and what it wouldn't do.
Yeah, so this is on the other end of the spectrum. So what a lot of people don't realize is that in West Virginia, we've got the highest incidence of smoking rates and lung cancer in the country per capita. And so many people don't understand that lung cancer is the #1 cancer killer in both men and women currently in the United States. So when you go back historically, go back to 1950, the overall survival for lung cancer was 8%. It was pretty bleak. Speed all the way up to 2013. We have 63 years in advances in medicine. The survival rate hasn't even doubled.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about.
Only went to
like
15%. Yeah. So in 2013, something significant happened, and there was a large study done that shows that if you take patients that are high risk, and currently that definition is over the age of 50, who smoke 20 pack years or more. Now, what 20 pack years means is 1 pack a day for 20 years or 2 packs a day for 10 years. That's 20 pack years. Those people are at the highest risk of developing lung cancer. They're at the top of the pyramid. So, in other words, they have a 1 in 5 risk that in their lifetime they're going to get lung cancer, versus somebody that's not in that risk is less than 1 in 90. So you can see the difference.
There's thumbs on the scale there for sure.
So if you catch that lung cancer early by a low-dose CAT scan, your survival rate goes from 15% up to 92%. Just by simple, hold your breath, lay on the table, in and out. That's that quick. And it's pretty inexpensive to do. So.
And finally, the interesting bill that as I was reading through it, just because of it's kind of ancillary, but it works with all of this, is Senate Bill 572, which would set up a loan program for forensic pathology students. And people would be like, well, what's that have to do with anything? Well, you're trying to cultivate these experts that can help in cases, because a lot of these families are waiting forever to get closure when they don't know what the true cause of death was in these instances where lung cancer could be involved. Is that accurate?
Well, it's not just that, it's any death. So our medical examiner's office, unfortunately, we get about 25 patients a day that have to have their unexplained deaths that have to be investigated. On that workload, we should have 12 forensic pathologists. The state budget's for 8, we have 3 full-time. And so we have patients over there, or we have citizens over there with family members that are waiting a year to get a death certificate because of the backup. And so what we need to do is get more forensic pathologists here to do a better job with that. The problem is the United States only graduated 17 of these physicians last year.
17?
17.
Wow.
I think the state of Kentucky has over 50. We have 3 trying to do the work for the entire state. So the only way we're going to get them here and get this problem cleared up is we're going to have to steal them from other states. And the only way we're going to get somebody to pack their family up and move is we're going to have to pay them.
Incentivize it.
Incentivize them. And so that's what that bill tries to do.
So specifically, would it cover the cost of all of their schooling, or how would that work?
It would cover, so the average cost coming out is about $350,000. It would cover 10% per year up to $300,000 for 10 years. So that's an encouragement. And then also it increases their pay to the upper quartile of what that type of physician makes across the country. They're not going to come here and make less, and they're not going to come here and still have high loans. So those are 2 incentives we use to try to get them here.
All right, we've reached the halfway point. Just a general sense of how the session's gone so far and what you'd like to still see get done over the next few weeks.
There's a lot of stuff that we've been working on, but it's getting to that point now. It's time to move.
Right.
And so there's going to be a bill, for example, to consolidate both the allopathic and osteopathic boards of medicine to create one. I'm excited about that. There's a lot of things we can do with that to modernize that board, which I think will be an example that boards all over the state. We're working closely with Amazon to make West Virginia the first all-digital state in the country. I think the Board of Medicine could be the premier board in the United States, so that's exciting. And then we've got a bunch of other stuff that's coming.
All right, Senator Tom Takubo, we appreciate your time. A busy day for you, so we'll let you get back to work, but we'll be right back with more Outside the Echo Chamber after this.
When it comes to surgical care, you want the best hands behind the robot. And those are ours. Choose Mon Health. Feel the difference.
Are you ready to unlock a future filled with remarkable pay, unbeatable benefits, and unparalleled satisfaction? Imagine embarking on a journey that offers you a college-level education without the weight of debt, all while earning a steady income. Look no further than the West Virginia Building and Construction Trades Apprenticeship Programs. Join us, and together, let's build a future that's brighter and stronger. Go to actwv.org to apply today. The West Virginia Building and Construction Trades, where the future is forged.
Welcome back inside the state capitol. It's a busy day here on the halfway point, and one of the groups that are here today are the professional firefighters of West Virginia. See a lot of men and women walking around, and this is the man, Virgil White, representing the professional firefighters today. And Virgil, just talk a little bit about why you're here today, and give me we mentioned before, the state of firefighting in West Virginia, if you will.
Well, the purpose of us here today is to get with our delegates, senators, on trying to get some legislation pushed through.
Specifically speaking, what would that be?
One of the biggest ones is our cancer presumption, which in 2021 we did manage to get some of the cancers covered, right, which was like your myelomas and melanomas. And now we're trying to get testicular, bladder, and mesothelioma cancers added to that presumption bill. And the purpose of it is we're exposed to a lot of carcinogens over our course of our careers.
Right. So
this presumptive bill would help us be in a workers' comp claim if firefighters are diagnosed with it.
Okay. So in layman's terms, it just adds to the benefits for a firefighter that would be able to get some compensation should they come down with one of these ailments.
Correct. Because we stand a chance of being 9% higher than the average person of being diagnosed with cancer. And we have a 14% higher risk of dying from cancer when we're diagnosed.
Now, generally speaking, right now, a tough time to be a firefighter in the state, not only for municipalities, but a lot of these volunteer fire departments are really struggling with funding. What's your take on that situation, and how can we get back to where firefighting was, it's always been a courageous occupation. It's always been, when you talk to little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Firefighter's always top of the list.
Right.
How can we get it back to where it's a job that people want to do because it's a necessary job, and how do we get it to where these people are appreciated for what they do?
Just, a lot of community support is the big thing. Getting out there and educating the public of how important this type of job is and how much people are needed to do this job. A lot of people, you kind of get lost in the weeds, per se, over what people do, but this is a very important job. It's dangerous, but it's very rewarding also.
And a lot of people might not understand how much it takes to fund a department. Like for the South Charleston Fire Department, how much money do you guys need to operate?
It's several $1 million. We're a municipal fire department. I have 5 fire stations in my city. Volunteer departments, they rely on donations and the state monies. We get money from the state also. So by the legislatures passing bills to create funding for the fire departments across the state. That's what is going to help tremendously, because the cost of everything's went up. A fire truck costs $1 million.
I know you're spending your day talking to legislators and trying to educate them on what's necessary for you guys. What's the feedback been like so far? Have you been getting good response from them so far?
Well, we've got a lot of support from a lot of the senators. Our cancer bill did pass through the Senate over to the House. Now it's stalled in the House, and we don't know why. So now we're here talking to a lot of the delegates to try to get that push to get this cancer bill out on the floor and get approved.
All right, well, good luck with that. Virgil White,
Thank you.
Keeping South Charleston safe every day of the week, and here today to represent the professional firefighters as they lobby to get their efforts passed through the House. Thank you for your time today, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. That does it for another episode of Outside the Echo Chamber, but we'll be back with another show next Tuesday as we continue to discuss the issues that are important to you and your family. Until then, I'm Rick Lord. Take care.